And we're live. Welcome back to another Corona Geek here, where we talk all about mobile app development using Corona SDK. I'm your host, Charles McKeever, and today we're going to talk about Lua, Coronium game server, and Ed's got a special little something to share with us on the game that he's been working on here lately. So we're going to hear that from him, and if we get time, we'll go over some geek trivia. I've got some of that kind of that I've been holding back on previous shows. Maybe we'll get some time to share it. So let me just pull up my notes here. I've actually I am not prepared, which is, you know, surprise, surprise. But I thought by this point that Sergey would be here. He's not, so I'm gonna rat him out on that. But he's gonna hopefully join us a little later to talk about the Lua conference that he went to in Russia. Basically, it was in Moscow, and he got to present, and he also met one of the creators of Lua, which was very cool. So if you haven't had a chance, go check out the pictures that are on Twitter. You can find that, you know, of course, on Sergey's social media. So there's a couple of announcements that we need to cover today before we get started, though. One is, if you didn't get a chance, go back and listen to Corona Geek 108. We talked to the developers of Dr. Spin. We talked to Scott Shapiro and Ed Ehrenberg. They have put that game together, and if you missed that, basically Dr. Spin is a game where you actually have to move the device around in order to line things up and unlock different portions of the game. So it's a lot of fun. Go check out our interview with them. We talked about, you know, some of the iPhone 6 drop test results. We talked about taptic feedback, and we also talked about how you know, subsidized phone plans are basically dying, and carriers are wanting you to pay for your devices now, and they don't really want to subsidize them anymore. So that was a great conversation. Go check it out. That's Corona Geek number 108. We'll put a link in the show notes. Also, it's important for you to know that if you are a Quickshare user, if you use Quickshare in conjunction with Corona SDK to create books and apps and that sort of thing, you know, basically Photoshop production of an app without creating any code, then you're going to want to buy Quick today. Today is the last day that you can buy it. The company has been purchased, and the developer is moving the tool to Japan, and they're going to serve that market there as well as the existing market. But they've shut it down. They want to you know, they've kind of closed it, rather I should say, and they want to get everything set up and ready to go for support in Japanese, and then they'll open everything back up. But to do that, they've kind of locked everything down. So if you want to build an app, if you need to renew your license, today is the last day that you can do that. So go check that out at quickshare.com. All right, Ed, you have been working feverishly on a lot of things, and one of them is your new game. Tell us about that.
Right, so rather boldly on a previous show, I made the assertion that I'd be working on and completing 10 games in the prior month. And then I gave Sergey a bad time when he said that he had client work and couldn't join me in the effort. Needless to say, I shouldn't have given Sergey a bad time, because client work immediately took over in my entire life. Nonetheless, I did get one game out, so it's somewhat of an accomplishment. It would have been out a little bit earlier, actually, but it ran into some of those iOS 8 problems that many of us ran into during the iOS 8 unleashing and transition, and while they were learning to test against iOS 8 and decide whether or not you were made the grade. So what I've done is I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Not the one with the camera, though. Let's not do that.
I like your use of the term unleashing.
It feels like they did.
That's kind of the way it feels, yeah. That's kind of the way it feels.
It feels like, oh, goodness, maybe I need to share the whole screen. That's probably not coming through too well, is it? Can you see that?
Well, we can see your device.
Okay, well, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
So what I've got is it's a two-touch game that I worked on, and it's got very simple art. So what I'm doing here is I'm doing an experiment. I found a mechanic that I liked, so I decided to make a game around it. And then I liked, one of the things that happens to me a lot is I will work on a game idea or mechanic and like it, and not be able to choose like one primary direction to go with it. For example, you find a mechanic of steering or motion, and you really like it, and you think, well, I could make this game, and you have ideas, or I could make this game and different ideas, and they're like totally different games, right? So you get stuck in this loop where you're always like, well, which one should I use? Should I use this one or that one, or is there some way to combine them? Or what I decided to do instead was say, I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm going to choose this basic mechanic. I'm going to choose simple art. I'm going to get one version of this game done that's got one flavor of challenges that just gets harder and harder, and I'll put it out. And then I'll just make a second game using the same input mechanic, same motion mechanic, but then I'll change the world, which was, for me, the part that was changing. So this game is a two-touch game in which basically all you do is you steer this little ship around, and your goal is to pick up anything green and not hit anything red. So what you're seeing on the screen is these little lines. The little green lines tell you when something you can pick up is coming up, and red shows you when something bad is coming up, which becomes important later as it gets harder, because right now you may notice that the red lines go away when it gets behind you. Well, there'll be objects later that chase you around and do stuff and try to get you. And so those lines show up all the time, so you can see when something's coming for you. So now we've gotten a little bit further, and it's gotten a little bit harder. Now the things are moving. And unfortunately, I'm playing the locked version of this game. So this game has an in-app purchase to unlock all 20 levels. I think it's 20 levels. You think I'd remember? It's been such a rough month. However many levels I have in my... Oh boy, that's terrible. I see you laughing there, Charles. I think it's 15 levels, actually. Anyway, there's quite a number of new enemies that you can play against, and you can unlock those for 99 cents. Where I was going with this is a vertical scroller, one basic world type. The next variant of this game is going to be an omniscroller, where you still have to follow a path and stay within a bounded region. And then the third version will be an open world version that has, I won't give all the details away, but it's the motion will not be restricted in any of the two axes, and you'll be able to do some things where you change your locality. It's hard to describe without giving it away. But the point is I wanted to experiment with different game mechanics as far as goals and world mechanics. And then the other thing I'm going to do is this one's got really simple art, sort of the neon-styled squares and circles and stuff like that. The next one's going to have a completely different art style. And the reason is, I can see that this doesn't play too well when you're looking at it on... it doesn't shutter like that when you're playing it.
Yeah, the frame rate.
It's really super hard to play when you're looking at the screen.
Yeah, the frame rate of the Hangouts never do justice.
Yeah, well, I died because I was playing it through Google, through the Google feedback there. That's no good. The next one's going to have a different art style, and the one after that will have a different art style yet. So this one is neon. The next one is going to be a pastel or black and white based, sort of like some of the recent one-touch games you've seen come out, like the one where you're supposed to keep the circle in a line, and the other one where you're supposed to make sure the square doesn't hit things as you're going up the screen. Like these really simple art styles. And then the one after that is going to be a pixel art style. And the reason I'm doing that is I want to see if it makes any difference at all, or what difference it makes as far as customers being more satisfied just because of art style. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, you're testing if it even makes a difference.
And what Chris said last week makes is a good way to say it. I'm going to change the production value of my game by doing. I'm not using his words exactly, but I think he used the term production value when we were talking to those other guys about their game and having put a lot of effort into the art and the sound and all that stuff. So I'm playing around with production value. Starting off cheap, getting a little more costly for me in terms of effort.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, I like the fact that you're keeping this one simple in terms of art style, because I think that's encouraging. It seems like it would be very encouraging to just say, okay, look, I don't want art to get in the way, and prevent me from publishing the app.
Exactly. I've always been sort of held back by the art side of things, and I decided that it's more important to me to get some games out there and explore mechanics than to spend a long time getting the art just right. Now, I mean, that may be the wrong decision in some ways because art drives purchases. People see it, like it, and want to try it. And if they don't think much of what they see, then you're never going to get past the looking stage. So I tried to give it a little bit. I mean, the interfaces I feel are kind of nice.
Yeah, it's cool.
It's a free game, so you can download it, and then if you choose, you can give me your 99 cents later.
I like
a couple of Easter eggs in it.
I like the predictive lines that you had there, telling you that something's coming. I think that's a unique piece. You know, something not. I don't know if it's unique, but a great piece that I tend to forget that you can add those types of details to the game.
Well, I tried. Yeah, you mentioned that. So I had the idea originally, and I thought this game gets really hard after a while because you're really cruising. One of the mechanics of this game is you touch left or right to turn left or right, but as you steer, your ship goes faster. The more you steer, the faster you go. So you're making life harder for yourself the more you're steering. Now, it does slow down if you let go, but you can imagine that you're steering frantically trying to go around things. Pretty soon your ship's going blazingly fast. So with that, you needed some kind of hint to give you what danger was coming up behind you or in front of you, and so I went with the line thing. One other thing, and then I'll let you guys take over, is another thing I wanted to try to experiment with is, let's call it abusing reviewers. There's a guy out there, I don't know if you ever watch any YouTube videos besides, you must, but Lonnie Doss, he's a reviewer, who has said that he will review any game that mentions him in it. And I figure, a guy who's got like 50,000 followers, plus whoever watches his videos without following, I could use that.
Right. Oh, yeah, definitely.
So in this case, I put in Lonnie mode, which is, you just select, I don't know if you can hear that through there, and you select it, and then you can play it, and you can't hear it, but it's...
There you go. There you go. You got to progress really fast.
Can you hear that?
Yeah.
So I took some snippets from his videos, and I took his voice, which is skating a line there, but I did it in such a way that I thought it would be somewhat tasteful and that he would enjoy, and hopefully he'll review. Because that can't hurt.
No, that's great, and these days, that's I think the review sites are kind of overwhelmed with people wanting reviews done and things like that, and YouTube is a great platform for getting in front of people, and those videos get played over and over and over again. So whereas a review, it'll get lost, at some point, and YouTube is a great platform for advertising or marketing.
Right, absolutely. I mean, to break the barrier and get. The reason I was really excited about this idea is I follow App Annie. I watch the App Annie details daily, sometimes more than daily because they update hourly or whatever. And I noticed a trend with this particular reviewer. He can't be responsible for the whole thing, but I noticed him reviewing apps and then seeing a climb for that app in the store within the day or by the next day. And I thought, I know it's not just him, but that can't be hurting. So there's got to be some correlation here.
Yeah, I think what you should shoot for here is you definitely personalized it to this one reviewer, which makes is going to encourage them to talk about it on their channel. But at some point, once they've done that, maybe you should put out an update where.
I'm thinking of like PewDiePie.
Yeah, you have a different reviewer, or maybe you have a whole menu of reviewers, so you can play as the top, let's just say the top 10 YouTube people, and then because they all like to collaborate with each other, so if you could get each one of them playing it, and then they kind of do mashups and cross promote each other and stuff, it would be great. Because even if you could find, here's another element, and you get my brain going, is you find two two channels that maybe like to poke fun at each other. You know they play, and then imagine PewDiePie not playing as PewDiePie, but as playing as Toby Turner.
Exactly.
And the commentary that would come out of that would be great. And then of course Toby's going to play it, right? Because now.
Yeah, we're letting my secret sauce out on the air here. But
sorry.
That's exactly where I'm going with this.
Flashy thingy.
The trick here is to do it in such a way that you're not violating anybody's IP and.
Sure. I don't think, but you're not being malicious or anything. I don't think anybody's going to hold that against you.
It was tricky, too, is pulling those sounds. I mean, I'm sure there's better sound editors out there than I, but getting them all sort of like normalized and pulling them out of the videos without any background sounds and stuff like that was surprisingly an effort-based thing. So.
I love it. Well, I've already downloaded it, and I have some questions for you, but I'll save those for offline, and we can.
Okay, and I'll get a link for the show.
Yes, definitely send me a link for that. I can probably find it. But, anyway, you guys go check it out. So that's Red and Dead on iOS. Is it going to be on Android?
There. You know what's going to happen if you hit something red.
Is it also on Android?
I'll be releasing it on Android shortly. I wanted to make sure it was on iOS first.
Sure. Okay, cool. Yeah, definitely. You guys go check that out. Sergey, thanks for joining us, man.
Hello, guys.
Hey, so tell us about this Lua conference, the workshop that you went to in Moscow. I know you presented at it, and we'll put a link in the show notes to your slides from your presentation. But how did it go? What did you think about it? What tips do you have for us?
First of all, thanks for having me here. Conference was great. I've met a lot of great people there, and talks were really good. There will be videos of the talks available in about a month or so be sure to keep an eye on it and watch them, because some of them was really useful to watch and see. Let me share the screen. They have slides available for some of the talks, but it's better to have a video, not only slides.
Yeah, I was really impressed with I could go out there and get all the slides and kind of flip through. Even if you don't have all the information, at least those slides can give you little nuggets of information you can take away. Okay,
can you see my screen?
Yes.
Great. So this is the main website for the Lua conference. It was called Lua Workshop, but the website is luaconf.ru. You can go there and you can click on the program and you will see all the talks available. You can click on the talks and it will get you to the slides. First talk was from creator of Lua language, it's Roberto, and he was talking about integers that will be introduced in Lua 5.3. This was one of the most interesting talks on the conference because integers are really important in a number of applications. However, language Lua was intended to be as simple as possible, so he decided to only leave floats then doubles because they can provide a lot of numbers without the float part, only because if you know, the double has 53 bits of bits that can be presented for integers, and the rest is to represent the float part. And for quite some time it was enough, and people didn't really miss much not having them. But as Lua usage grows, as algorithm grows, as computer science grows, we really need the full spectrum of 64 bits integers for example, for encryption and some other stuff. So he was telling what ways can we, in what way can we introduce integers to Lua. And he was talking about good things about doubles and bad things about doubles.
When he says big and slow for restricted hardware, so things that are resource constrained, is that what we're talking about, memory constrained or something like that?
For example, some microcontrollers don't have support for float number arithmetics, and every addition, every substitution or multiplications take a lot of SPU time, and having just integers types would increase the performance. But on modern computers, it's not a problem, so it's only for restricted software that is really low powered. Bitwise representations of doubles is not that simple, and having bitwise operations on them would not make much sense for a developer. So having bitwise operations on integers, however, makes much more sense. So that's why we need integers. He was talking that integers are already in the language itself, in some inner parts of the Lua, but they're not presented to the end developer. And so, internally, some functions do use integers, for example, for strings, and but just exposing them on their own as they are internally to the developer is not that simple because of the semantics, because of how integers work, for example, in other languages. He then describes about other types of integers implementations in other languages. For example, there's a problem in Python language, because if you divide 5 by 2 in Python, you would not get 2.5, because by default it would cast to strictly integers, and to make it 2.5 you need to write it 5.0 divided by 2. So it's very confusing for new developers, and overall it may make some errors in calculations.
Yeah, it seems like anytime that you can let the language express itself fully, it seems like it's a much better choice. Even and same concept applies to compilers and things like that. I mean, I kind of like the way that Apple has done some things with their Swift language, because they're kind of letting the compiler do some of the inference, trying to figure out what kind of type is this and stuff like that, as opposed to just having to go in and add a bunch of type definitions to your code. So
in the middle he talks about different implementations of integers, and they will be available in Lua 5.3, and this is good. But the point of his talk was to show that it's not that easy just to turn the switch on and you have integers. It's actually a lot of work. You have to think about backward compatibility and other stuff, and restricted software that Lua does run smoothly as before. So, and language semantic about how to parse different equations. Should equation be a float or integer? It's always hard to find the right decision. So, yeah, I guess that's all I can take about his talk. It was really great. When it will be available online, be sure to go and watch it.
Yeah, the interesting thing about these guys, if you listen to them talk, is that and I'm not just talking about Roberto. I'm just talking about programming language designers. They think about things at a so much more deep level. They think about how the programmer is going to interact with the language, and how the machine is going to use the language, and how things that we've learned from previous iterations or previous languages, and how to bring things forward. And it's just amazing to listen to them. I know I listened to the guy that I can't remember his name at the moment, but he was kind of the architect of C#, and just the level of detail and thought that went into, like you were saying earlier, when you're doing that calculation, what should the final number be? Should it be a float? Should it be a double? Should it be, what should it be? And as a developer of the end product, using the end product, I really don't think about those types of things. It's just it's already been thought of for me. So you just have a deeper appreciation for the language when you listen to the designer talk about all the decisions they had to make. So.
Another talk, the next talk was from the developer of Lua Rocks. Do you know Lua Rocks project, guys?
Yep.
It's when you have a set of libraries for Lua, and you can easily download them and integrate in your projects. I'm not sure how it's applicable for Corona specifically, but I guess at some point, at some extent, it does applies. So it's interesting to know about it. And you can go to Lua Rocks and see if you need some Lua libraries there. He was talking about how the whole thing, Lua Rocks, is developed, how it was the history of Lua Rocks, and what he's doing in the project, what there were problems, and other stuff. So it was interesting as well. Packages.
Yeah, it seems like most, like I say, modern languages are doing something like that, right? Like Node.js has in npm, so it makes sense that Lua, which is becoming more and more widely used, would have something like that as well.
I'm not sure. Maybe it will be a good idea to make something for Corona specifically as Lua Rocks. How do you think? Would it become popular for Corona developers? Or just using Lua Rocks?
Yeah, I don't know. Chris, what do you think about that? You've created a bunch of modules and different things.
I use the Lua Rocks for a lot of the server stuff. It depends what external libraries you're using, but you could use it even right now for Corona. You could actually put your stuff together as a rock, your modules. I've never done it myself, but you could do it right now. I don't know. It's almost like another thing to have to teach somebody how to do for their development. So it may not be, unless you're really into it on the Lua side. They may not be that great, but it could be done.
Next Lua talk was about using Lua in some complex environment and complex processes designed as a scripting language. I don't remember much about it, other than that it was really complex. There was all flows of calculations, of controlling, of maintaining huge industrial processes, and Lua was a part of it. So it's cool to know that Lua is used on such big projects, not just a program somewhere, but really some industry depends on Lua. That's cool. This is kind of similar. They also talk about Project Osmos, about energy consumption, about calculating how much energy is spent and where it is spent, and how much how much efficiency can be increased if with a certain adjustment to the system. So it was also interesting to watch, but it's a rather complex one.
Yeah, that is interesting to see it's used in such a large-scale project like that.
very interesting talk is about typed Lua. It's a project that aims to add optional type system for Lua. If you know C language or some other compiled language, you remember that they have really strict system for types, that you can't pass a variable of some different type to a function which is, when it accepts some certain type of argument, and that would in other languages would make you raise a compiler error, and it will tell you, oh, you have problems here, probably you didn't intend to use this variable but some other variable. So in complex systems, types do really help for Lua, especially for let's say not games, not easy scripts, but for web services, for embedded software where you have lots of stuff and it's maybe hard to keep an eye on everything because Lua has runtime errors, and so if there is an error in the program, in the code, you only know about it when it does error. And types help prevent such situations and help you to write cleaner code, write you a more strict code with less errors. So I'm looking forward to this project. It's not released yet, but it's worked on, and it will be really useful, I think. So really.
Did they say would it be a different version of it, or would it be a flag that you would set in your environment, or what?
It's a dialect of Lua that will compile to native Lua after all the checks would pass. So you program, your code is of typed Lua language, it's a dialect, but at the end it's the same Lua, but without all the types.
So do they have their own compiler for it? Is that how it works?
It's compiled to native Lua.
Huh.
So basically all the type information is stripped, and you have just pure Lua code left.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's very interesting. Some controversy talk was about Lua pitfalls. He was telling about that Lua is not so simple in errors, that some small things can lead to drastic errors, drastic mistakes in environment, like you forget to put like if you kneel something in an array and array just breaks, or if you kneel some variable, it means you destroy everything that associated with it. So, and it's kind of obvious, at least I think for us. And let me think if he has some good examples of pitfalls that do really care. So here is example of using MongoDB driver for Lua, and he set some variable in MongoDB as nil, and it erased all the database on the production server or something like that. So it was very easy to make a mistake, but it's not really a Lua mistake, it's a MongoDB driver mistake, I'd say.
Yeah, Mongo gets rid of records way too easy.
He talks about global variables, so we already know about how it's not that good. Yeah, but still interesting to watch.
So basically, during this talk, he just sort of highlighted all the things to watch out for, the things to...
Yeah, things that he actually encountered. Not all Lua pitfalls, but that he was concerned about.
Gotcha.
Another great use of Lua is in Internet of Things devices, like microcontrollers, some small stuff like in your oven, in your health device, in your wallet, or in your, I don't know, lamps, electricity, your house, and how they communicate with each other. So, and Lua is really useful for such devices because Lua is runtime. You can easily manipulate the program as they're running. You can update the code on the fly without much problems, and because Lua is much simpler than C, it's much easier to write the code for them. So it's a really great project and a really great user. They have a development board for Lua. Let me scroll to it.
Yeah, I was reading an article this week about the Wink, basically the Wink hub, which connects all the devices in your house together. So it would be interesting to program, to be able to program against the devices in your house using Lua.
So these guys, they produce these blocks. You can stack them together, and you can place them in different places at your home, and they will communicate with each other with established protocol. So they have written the framework for this stuff, and you can buy it relatively.
How do I get that?
On their website, I guess.
So is this Pinogs? Is the Pinogs one for the Raspberry Pi? Or is it just
that? They basically want to be Raspberry Pi for Lua.
Gotcha. Yeah, I've been doing some Lua stuff on my Raspberry Pi. I'm working on Coronium Pi.
www.nogs.info. That's their website. So you can go there and see all the stuff they have. But it's really interesting, and their boards are not that expensive.
Yeah.
They could be more expensive, but it's okay for them. So as you can, there's a table of all their boards. They have ARM chips. About the simplest one has 16 megahertz, and the most advanced one has 1 gigahertz, and they all run the same software basically.
Oh, cool. I'm gonna check that out.
Now, what was the website address again?
And what
was it Nogs.info?
Nogs.info, right.
Nogs.info didn't.
Yeah, it says it's registered for sale.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Sorry, Nogs.
Some problem for them then.
Yeah. So if you guys go there, just we'll try to dig out some more details for you.
Mm-hmm. The next talk was about using Lua in high-load applications. Again, interesting about complex stuff, how Lua saves development time and how it performs really quickly even in high-load projects. As they talk about LuaJIT, of course, not the pure Lua, but their response time using Lua is really not bad. So another great case of using Lua in high load. Sailor is a framework that you can use as a substitute for PHP. So they intend to write a PHP developer-friendly framework to switch your website to Lua. So they definitely work on PHP problems. So and they use Lua. And I don't know what too much to say about it. It's really cool. It's I guess it's useful. You can make web applications really easy with Sailor on Lua. And there are some other frameworks like OpenResty, ModLua for Apache. Oh no, they say it's compatible with them, so not there other. But there are some other projects that you can also look at. So yes, if you want to develop web applications in Lua, go check it out, the Sailor framework. Another talk for usage of Lua for low-level programming. They use as well LuaJIT as well.
And this one does what? What is this one?
They run Lua for network controllers, network interfaces. So they manage all the network, low-level network stuff like buffers, protocols in Lua, and it becomes really good for them, again, because of the speed of Lua and the ease of development with Lua. They can make much more complex applications than in C, because in C it would take much more time, and with Lua they have much more fun, and it's really useful for them. So they have several network interfaces, and they can manage traffic through them with high speed and with no delays that other language would introduce. So it doesn't really matter if you use C or Lua here, because performance is just enough for this kind of activity. And it was really great to see that Lua can be used not only on the level of microcontroller, but kind of on the level of a driver. So they have a C part of the driver that directly talks to the network interface, but it only makes this dock. All the algorithms, all the decisions are made by Lua. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, I went back to the slides for that Nogs, and at the bottom there they say in October 2014. So I'm sure that they put the information in the slides, but they must be working on the website, pulling the project together. So
right. This is very interesting talk about a guy who is an artist and a musician. He makes live shows using Lua. Basically, he makes a huge screen with some abstract images on them, and he interacts with them while he while the performance is going. So he can sing, he can play the music, some electronic trance and stuff like that music, and he can interact with the scene on the screen. It can change color, it can change shapes and other stuff. It looks very beautiful. Does he have any videos? So this is models of his framework. The framework is called Lubic, but it's not a framework, he says. And every one of them does different stuff, like interacting with some screen, introducing some effects, accessing web cameras, accessing vMotion controller and other stuff, playing music, rendering some 3D. So it's very interesting.
Definitely some time spent there.
Yeah. I want to find some screenshot if it is here. Yeah, this is one of the screenshots. So this is a scene filled with cubes. All the cubes have some abstract coloring, and he can interact with them. He can throw them up in the air with his Wiimote, and he can arrange them together back again, and it's all followed by great music, and well, basically you just have to see it. It's very impressive. It's very impressive.
So the blocks change based on the rhythm and tempo of the music and that sort of thing?
Yeah, he can do whatever he wants. So he controls everything. He controls the textures, he controls the positions, and whatever he likes, he can code in his program. and it will come to life. So it's some very abstract things and stuff.
Wow.
Some patterns.
Yeah, that's great looking stuff.
Yeah, and when in motion, it looks really great.
Did he give you guys a demo while you were there? Did he?
Yes, he gave a demo.
Yeah.
It was impressive, and it will be more impressive if it was set up correctly, like in some, I don't know, dance party or something like that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
In a right area. So he's at Twitter. It's BAMIG or something like that, and follow him. He might have some videos there.
Okay.
Be sure to check it out. The last talk was about Lua API for C++ 11. Basically, I don't code in C++, but what he did is very impressive. He made it so it will be much more easier for people to use C++ with Lua. So he manages the whole other level of Lua interactions with the program. So he did really great job on that.
It makes me think of Corona cards. You use your Corona project inside of an Xcode project, or inside of a Unity project. That sort of thing.
Lua was all the time available for C, and for C++ it was a little bit clumsy maybe, and he made it that for C++ it's much more easier now. So
awesome.
That's about it for the Lua talks. Thanks for listening to me.
Very cool. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, and I appreciate you going and talking on Corona, and I'm looking forward to the videos, and I would love to see some photos, more photos come. I've looked at their Facebook page and seen some of the photos that were taken. It looked like it was a good turnout, and
Sir.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. There's some cool stuff in there. I got bookmarked.
Yeah, I saw you got all excited there, Chris. But hey, where are we? Internet of Things.
Interesting too. Yeah, I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
Neat to see what people can do with Lua.
We got about 12 minutes left. Do you think you have time to demo your stuff, or what do you want to do?
We can wait till next time. If you have some other stuff to share, and then I'll just the announcement just is basically there is a newer version of the Coronium server out, and it has a bunch of new stuff that's been kind of put in as people have given feedback. So you can hit that up at coronium.gs, and there's new docs and some examples, etc. So, and then then I'll show basically what I'm working on right now is I'm trying to build different templates for people. So there's nothing fancy graphic-wise, but just giving you the code framework. So like the one that I was going to share today has a lobby system, in-game chat, things like that. But we can totally check that out next week.
Okay. Yeah. So you guys go check that out. Coronium.gs. Chris has put a lot of work into this, and if you're looking to put together a game server, you want to create some interactive applications, then go check it out. There's a whole documentation over there. It's got YouTube channel. I mean, it's amazing how much effort you've put into making sure that people can use the tool, not just so that the tool is available, but so that they can get up and running quickly.
Yeah, this one has been a little rough launch when I went from 1 to version 2, but I think it's starting to smooth out now.
Yeah, well, I think that the audience who's going to be adventurous enough to take on something like that is, they're okay with a little bit of bumps here and there. I mean,
the forums are good and active for people asking questions, so that's been cool.
Cool. Yeah, definitely. Well, yeah, we want to have enough time for that, so let's definitely talk about that next week.
Cool.
And then what we'll do right now is we'll flip over and we'll do a little bit of Geek trivia, and then we'll talk about some of the things that are kind of happening in general, just things on the web. So okay, I know that one of the things that I was going to do as a geek trivia was actually in one of Sergey's slides. So I'll ask the question, and he's probably going to know the answer right away. And if you guys were paying attention, you probably already know it as well. But when was Lua created? Anybody on the panel want to take a stab at that? Sergey, I think you're a shoo-in for this.
Yeah.
All right. Any takers? Going once? So it says 2005. Actually, it was. What's that?
1986.
1986. Greg? What's your guess? 2000.
It had to be before 2005.
All right. So he's got 2000. Okay. So it was actually created in 1993.
Mm-hmm.
It was created for in-house use. And V1 actually came out in 1994. So it's been around for a long time. What is that? That's 20 years or so, right? Right at? Yeah.
20 years.
So, it may catch on. It takes 20 years to create an overnight success, no matter what you're doing. And then what was Lua first created for? And I think I just said it just a moment ago, kind of spoil that. But was it A, for World of Warcraft, B, for in-house projects, or C, a Brazilian oil company?
It's got to be C, because it's a weird one.
It's just a weird one.
Yeah.
You think? Okay, wait. World of Warcraft.
World of Warcraft. The answer's got to be the right one.
The oil company was a weird one.
In-house testing. I'm going with that.
Brazil makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense. Well, it was actually created for in-house projects, and I think that the Brazilian oil company thing was actually one of those in-house projects. They had several, but they really created it for their own purposes, which is generally how these kind of things take effect, right? Somebody creates it for themselves first. They're like, I really wanted it, and then I thought other people would want it, and next thing you have Apple computer.
Reading his book, Roberto's book, The Lua, he was saying that they had to create it because they couldn't afford the licensing of other languages, so they created it themselves in-house, supposedly. Something to do with in where they were, if they had to use another language, it was going to be too expensive, or some export law or something like that. Something strange.
Yeah, well, necessity drives it, right? So, and then so you're touching on that exactly. So who created Lua? Was it A, Adobe, B, Blizzard, or C, a committee? This is pretty obvious. What's that?
Blizzard.
I know that. See, everybody associates it with World of Warcraft, so Blizzard would be a decent answer. But it was actually created by a committee, which there's how many? Sergey, do you know how many? Like 3 or 4 guys, three or four people who were part of that.
The lead developer is Roberto, and he has 2 main helpers that are now core. How to say it? Core developers, something like that.
Okay, yeah. So I thought that was interesting because they, generally by committee nothing gets created, but subcommittees and things like that. But they spend a lot of time and effort, like we talked about earlier, thinking the language out and how how it should be developed and how it should be built out over time. So I think they had a long-term vision on this. They spent a lot of time and effort, and it's paid off, I guess. It's been around 20 years.
I think it's interesting too how little they update. They've been it'll be years before they'll add any. They're really against adding anything to the language.
Keep it simple, right?
Yeah, seriously.
Yeah, and I'm sure that helps for them as well. Just being a small team like that, and not wanting to create a mess, support mess, versions.
One of the good examples is Python. They have released Python 3 many years ago, but there's still a fight between Python 3 something and Python 2.7. So people do still use the old Python because of the problems with update.
Yeah.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So I'm looking through the notes here. Did you guys see? That's the end of our geek trivia. Did you guys see that there's a you can now run Android apps on Windows, Mac, and Linux? Did you guys see this article?
It was for quite some time.
What's that?
I can run what?
You can
Is
run Android apps on Windows, Mac, Linux. There's an OMG Chrome. There's an article about it, and I'll post a link in the show notes. But I thought that was interesting. Here, I'll put it in the chat.
And that's not via a
No.
emulator?
I think you need a Chrome add-on.
Huh.
And then, Sergey, what?
Yeah, Chrome one is a new one, so you can use it to run Android applications in native speed. It's really great. And there was another project that you can install on Mac on Windows, and it will emulate Android, and you can install Android apps on it.
So,
Yeah,
pretty crazy.
Blue something or other.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. There's some hoops you have to jump through in order to get it to work. You know, you have to install certain versions of things and have Chrome add-ons and stuff like that. But for the most part, that's what, if you're that adventurous, you want to get into that. All the information is made available to you. So here I'm sharing on my screen here. I've got the article up. It came out on the 19th of September and kind of gives you all the details that you need. But it's an interesting concept.
It's a good stuff. I think with repackaging of Corona applications, we can run Corona on it.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, this is just another example of being able to run things in the browser without necessarily, people are coming up with creative ways of being able to do that. I guess what I'm trying to say. All right.
Such a quiet show today.
It is a very quiet show. Yeah. I don't know why, but it's just sometimes that's just the way that works out. What's that? What'd you say?
Random noises just to fill in.
Yeah. I know the people on the podcast don't drive off the road and fall asleep.
I know.
If you're listening to the
Don't
podcast.
make a loud noise and scare them. Whoa! I'm getting sued for the podcast.
Yeah. Well, that's pretty much the show this week. I think we don't need to belabor it too much, but if you guys, I want to remind everybody that if you are interested in Quick, go over to quickshare.com, check them out. Today's the last day. We want to be sure that everybody has a chance to enjoy that tool as well. So go check out the announcement and make sure that it's if it's something that you want to do, go ahead and secure your copy now so that you can continue with your development and your updates, your apps, and all that kind of stuff like that. And then next week, what we'll do is we'll come back and we will talk about Coronium game server, or Coronium GS. And we'll see a demo of that, and we'll have some other great stuff to talk about using Corona. So you guys go check out Coronium.gs in the meantime, get your mind wrapped around that, and we'll be back here next week for a demo. So until then, have a great week, and happy coding.
Adios.
Bye. Juice.
Juice.
Juice. No, not juice.